One thing that a lot of people say to me is that they're afraid to cook because they don't know how to cook their meat properly. I'm going to show you some very easy tips to follow, easy hints to follow that will make you successful when it comes to cooking your meat products from Silver Fern Farms. So we've seasoned our meat and it's ready for our pan. Now I like to use a nice good thick cast iron pan. As you see here, it's got nice little ridges on it, so I'll get the nice little barbecue mark. But use a good heavy skillet. And obviously oven pre-warmed. I always set my oven at 180 degrees when it comes to cooking my red meats. So what we do is we've seasoned our meat. I just use a simple olive oil spray. I just spray that over my meat like so, just to give it that little bit of coating, and that'll be sufficient to go into my pan. Now we've got to make sure our pan's nice and hot because, as you will see, I'm just about to demonstrate, we take our protein, presentation side down first. As you can hear now, that is sizzling away. I call that the factor. If you hear that sizzling when you apply your meat to the heat, then that means your pan is nice and hot. If you don't hear that, then take the meat away from the pan and wait for the pan to come up to heat. Because what will happen is if the pan's too cold, the meat will just stew and bubble and you'll end up ruining it and it will become tough and unpalatable. So make sure your pan's nice and hot and you get that sizzling factor going on. Very, very important point. So this is our lamb leg roast. These are our lamb rump roast, so same thing. Just spray them gently. Now for the lamb leg roast, the lamb rump roast, we'll give them about a minute and a half on each side, to allow them to take on that nice golden brown colour, and also for the presentation side to caramelise. Once we've done that, we just turn them over gently onto the other side, allow the other side to brown up nicely as well. Once you've got nice browning on each side, now you can, if you want, with the lamb leg roast, it is slightly thicker than the rumps. If you want, you can just gently tip it up on its side, just to sear the sides. Nothing wrong with that. And the other side. And they're ready for the oven. So we do now, as I said, we have our oven preheated to 180 degrees. We just place those into the oven and wait for them to cook. With the lamb leg roast, these 400 gram ones, what I've found quite successfully is 25 minutes in the oven will be sufficient time, and then we'll bring them out and rest them. With the lamb rump roast, 12 to 15 minutes depending on the degree of doneness that you would like, whether you'd like rare, medium, medium to well, 12 to 15 minutes. We remove them from the oven. And now what we need to do, and this is a very, very important point, it's actually the resting of the meat. Now, as I explained, when we apply heat to the meat is a muscle and it tightens up when we apply the heat. Now the important thing is, that means if we were to cut it right now out of the oven, the meat would be tough. So what we need to do is rest it. And then what happens with the resting is the fibers in the meat loosen and relax and come back, and that's where we get our tenderness from. So it's always good to have a wire rack and a pan of some sort, and we'll just transfer our meat to there. A little bit of foil. Just place that over somewhere warmer side in the kitchen, so while that's resting you can carry on with your vegetables or other bits and pieces that you're going to use to accompany your chosen piece of meat. Now, it's rule of thumb with resting that I use is 1/3 the amount of time it took to cook. So if with the lamb leg roast it took 25 minutes to cook, I'll allow it to rest for 8 minutes. With the lamb rumps, they took 15 minutes to cook, so I'll allow them to rest for 5 minutes. Okay, so our meat is now rested for the required amount of time. So now it's ready to serve. So what we're going to do is now slice our meat, ready for presentation. It's very important that when slicing the meat that you actually slice against the grain. That way you keep the tenderness of the meat. And as you can see there, nice pink rosé colour coming through on the lamb, perfectly medium rare there. Entirely up to you as to whether you like your meat medium rare, medium, or even more medium to well, or even well done. It's a personal thing. There is no right and wrong, it's whatever you enjoy.